This is a big storm. It's had its eyes set on Galveston. The bigger the storm, the bigger the surge.
This is by far the worst we've been seeing.
We don't have no house. God, please.
It's gone. It's all gone.
Turn my lights on, please. Help us.
From KPRC Local 2, Hurricane Ike, storm of the century.
We've got this line, I want you to watch this, 110 miles an hour as we go right toward the Galveston, from Galveston to Matagorda County. When Ike was in the Gulf of Mexico, my concern was, do people really have an understanding of what we're up against? Because there was the whole issue of the winds were a Category 2, the storm surge a Category 4. That's confusing to people. The models kept shifting it a little bit from Houston and Matagorda to Corpus Christi and back to Matagorda. Right now, 100-mile-an-hour winds, moving northwest at 8 and over some very warm water. We'll have a Category 3 by this time tomorrow, if not sooner. We'll have a Category 4 quite possibly as we head into 1 o'clock on Friday, and it's that kind of power that could be making its way into the Texas coast. And after the Rita experience, a lot of people were wish casting that Ike would go somewhere else. If you look at the whole area, the high-pressure system's driving Ike. That was not the same setup as Rita. Even though the storm may look like it's the same, oh, well, that's another Gulf storm, and it's coming the same way Rita came. What's driving it was not the same. The way the pattern all summer had been was for these storms to come across the Gulf in our general direction. So the fact that this one was going to continue to come our way made sense. Just simply, intuitively, it made sense.
I immediately started thinking back to Hurricane Alicia, because I was here when that storm hit, and I remembered that it wasn't necessarily the storm itself that was so great, but it was the days that followed and the consequences, the debris, the lack of power. And I know how difficult it can be living through that.
You know, when the storm was still several days out, I noticed among those who had never experienced a hurricane and its aftermath a certain excitement rather than apprehension. I wanted to tell these people, and in some cases did tell them, we don't want this to happen. A hurricane is always deadly, and it is always life-changing.
There have been new developments in the weather over the last 24 hours.
And this is going to follow the path of least resistance, but we don't know where that path is going to be. Is it going to be Galveston? Is it going to be Beaumont? Is it going to be Lake Charles? Right now, the money is on Galveston. We're 36 hours out from a landfall. And really, we know that Friday things are going to be going downhill. So Thursday, it's now a matter to me of where exactly does this storm hit? More towards San Luis Pass, more toward Galveston, even a chance maybe up toward High Island. We're still looking at that cone of uncertainty as to where exactly the storm, and it's going to make a huge difference. So trying to eye exactly where this storm was going to go and get people throughout the area prepared for any case scenario, that was the goal of Thursday, to get people ready. Here's what you need to do today. You need to secure your property, fill your gas tank, get your medicines, get your supplies, get your batteries, get your water, be ready for this storm. So it was time on Thursday to tell them, this is our storm, get ready.
If you think you want to ride something out and people are talking about a 20-foot wall of water coming at you, then you better think again. You need to evacuate.
When a mandatory evacuation is called, obviously our leaders know something that we need to know. Obviously there's concern about either wind damage or storm surge and what this might do, not only to your property, but the potential loss of life. What we were seeing initially was an evacuation, a sense of planning, a sense of preparation, a sense of, okay, we know what to do now, let's get out of here.
They're just about ready now to load the last couple of buses for the day. If you haven't already left this island, now is the time to go.
We are on Highway 46 in Seabrook in Harris County. This bridge is the bridge that leads over into Kemah in Galveston County. You just heard Mayor Bill White saying, do not wait till tomorrow. These folks need to leave.
Take a look at Brazos, We are stacked.
From Sky 2, you can see the massive mobilization, the state and federal responders gathering here.
They're having problems, I can tell you, finding water. The shelves on the water aisle awfully slim, as is the bread aisle. Batteries and flashlights also snatched up.
Now we're seeing more waves. It's right up against the seawall already. And of course, there is a mandatory evacuation underway out here. The mayor has urged everybody to get off the island and do it as quickly as possible.
And so it was clear with the seawall waves already coming up that high on Thursday that the water was out there, being pushed along by this storm through the Gulf, and it had nowhere to go but here. It was clear to me on Thursday, with that kind of a tide already coming in, that this was going to be a monster surge, about as high as you can get. Carla had a 22-foot storm surge down when it hit in Matagorda, which translated to a 10-foot storm surge in Galveston. This was clearly a much bigger storm, much bigger than Alicia, much bigger than Carla physically. And so consequently, the surge physically, in terms of how far it went along the coast, was going to be much bigger and much stronger and affect many more people. And that became clear Thursday night.
It was disconcerting to see how many people chose to stay behind, especially as we saw the storm surge really start to pick up.
One of the most amazing things I saw was a woman, one of our reporters was talking to this woman out on the beach, and she was letting her kids play in the water.
So it's just hours, you know, it's probably 4 or 5 hours before landfall. And I'm on the beach doing the live shots. And so I come across this family, and they're on the beach, and already the water's starting to come in pretty good. And I start talking to them, and the lady tells me that she believes God will protect her from the storm.
What are you guys doing out here?
We know that this storm is not coming, and we're just faithful believers that God is just going to keep on pushing it by.
I never saw that family after that night. I hope they had plans to, even though they had that thought, they were smart, I think, and left the island, I think, shortly after that.
I was hoping people were listening. I'm not going to hope cast a storm not to hit us. And we can all sit and hope and hope and hope. That's not a practical, scientific way to approach a hurricane. The way you have to approach it is, get ready for it to hit, please listen to me, do what we're telling you to do, and if we're completely wrong, then we can all go back to our lives on Saturday and we can curse out the weatherman. I can deal with that. What I can't deal with is people not having the chance and opportunity to make really good, safe decisions for themselves and their families. We're still watching a landfall in Galveston, and we're just going to have to wait and see if it edges a little bit to the right. There's a look at the models that we have right now. They're converging, obviously, over the Galveston area. Put all this water in here, and it has nowhere to go but up. And these concave coasts just set the stage, just like the concave part of your bathtub. If you slosh water that way, or perhaps a swimming pool, you can see the water goes up a little higher there, where you have that concave area of the bathtub. And that's what's going to happen here. I was amazed on Friday that Galveston, parts of Galveston were already underwater Friday morning, and the storm was still 15 hours away. You have to pay attention to that and say, my goodness, this is a storm that's going to be a big, powerful storm. And so that became the focus, that people need to get out of there, they need to be ready. It's had its eyes set on Galveston the last 36 hours, and it doesn't look like that's going to change. The bigger the storm, the bigger the surge.
You can see the good vegetation line that's been growing through the area, but as I'm watching that wave action really crash in, you're starting to see it underneath the vegetation line. It's starting to erode through that area, which is a terrible sign given the fact that Ike really hasn't come into this area yet, but he's been whipping up the Gulf into a froth all morning long. It's getting stronger and stronger with each passing hour. We've seen a lot of parts of the road start to swamp, and probably time for me to go ahead and move up here now.
I've covered a ton of hurricanes and tropical storms. I have never seen waves that big and that fierce and that consistent.
We started to see a lot of the roads swamp, and there goes the one step. All right, that's the end of it. I got it.
I've never seen it rip away piers within a matter of minutes before. I mean, these are piers that were sturdy, had been there for years, and literally within 2 to 3 hours of the waves starting, those piers were just gone.
And it has already started flooding here at Surfside Beach. Let me show you behind me. It is this road is completely flooded.
It's a scary picture to look at this point, because we know it's just a small, minute picture of what is soon to come. Already flooding this morning in Bayou Vista.
So
I think seeing those pictures, seeing the storm surge rise in Galveston and Bayou Vista and these communities really scared everyone and really made us realize what kind of storm we were dealing with.
I mean, those waves were crashing along the seawall right away. We saw streets flooded over very quickly. Homes just swallowed up by the waters almost immediately.
If we were seeing this beforehand in the hours before the storm ever made landfall, we knew we had something severe and significant headed our way.
The reason we're having these issues so early is because the storm is so massive. The real problem is going to be closer to Galveston Bay, where you can have a 15 to 25-foot storm surge. This is incredibly dangerous.
If you live in one of the evacuation zip codes and you have not left, leave now. The storm surge is stronger, and it's important that people understand that this really is a life or death matter.
They're asking the people who stayed, the 3 people, that's it, 3 people who stayed, to wear some kind of identification on their body and put some kind of marker on their home. I mean, they're really expecting the worst there.
Things are getting worse by the minute.
It really is. I'm standing next to this stop sign here to give you all some perspective about how high this water is now, how the storm surge has kicked in thigh high here right in front of Kemah Boardwalk. We're along State Highway 146 at 6th Street. Let me take you over here, and just behind the sign here is the shopping district. A lot of you may be familiar with this. This water on the street here is between 2.5 and possibly up to 3 feet now at its deepest.
You never know how big and bad the wolf is until it gets to your house. And the same thing with a hurricane. You can think it's going to be bad, you can look at the buoy data, you can look at the airplane data that the hurricane hunters are getting. Until it gets here and you start seeing what it's going to do, that's when you say, wow, that's amazing.
Look at that. That hasn't happened yet. There's still time to get out. And this is only increasing and getting worse.
One of the things that's been scariest about these waves is we're several hours from Ike's landfall, yet they're coming in so hard. We've seen them able to knock out piers in this area, wooden piers, not just collapse them, but collapse them and then suck them back out to sea.
One thing I want to explain to our viewers is that we have some new technology we're actually using. This is a dash cam that we have hooked up.
This was awesome. We had never had the ability to do this before. We were driving and able to show people what we were seeing. There were waves crashing, there was already debris, and this was before the storm was even hitting.
That's right, guys, we're able to come live to you on dash cam. We're showing you right now is the surf underneath that has just been wild. This is some of the first wind damage we've seen out here. If you take a look a little bit over onto the roadway there, you can actually see part of the roof has come off of this building, and it looks like what's underneath that is a staircase that also was torn off by the wind. And if you look over, you can actually see how much, that's a huge chunk of the roof that simply came off now. If you look over to the left, you can see a lot of debris along this roadway, which is what we've been talking to you about. There's just so much stuff on the roadways here, and what we're seeing is this is big chunks of wood over here. This is a lot of stuff that's been blown down and has been pushed up by the water. So it's all sort of collected here along the seawall. And we're going by another restaurant here. You can see how high these waves are coming up now. It is pretty amazing to be out here. At some points we can really feel the car rocking back and forth, which is one of the great things about this new technology we're using. We're a little safer here because we're actually inside the car.
We were actually just driving around trying to see as much as we could and show as much as we could, and we saw this smoke, and so we drove towards it, and all of a sudden we saw flames.
There are various places on the island they simply cannot get to right now because of the flooding. This is one of them. This fire has been going for a while, and you can see those flames just going and going, and they really can't do anything because that whole street is underwater. They have a road closed sign that actually has fallen over into the water. You can see a police officer there is about halfway down that street. And beyond that, there are more people who are trying to get to this fire.
We actually spoke with a family who was taken. They saw this fire in the building next to them and had thought they were going to ride out the storm. But once they saw this, they thought, I've got to get out of here. But they were trapped. It was flooded around them. They had no way to get out. Police came, got them, brought them to safety, and they were just so thankful to have gotten out while they could.
The hurricane force winds are about to be upon us.
There are 15 or 20,000 people on the island right now, residents who decided not to leave. And at this point, obviously they can't. And what the other part of that equation is, emergency crews cannot get to them. So if there is trouble, and if they are out, and we haven't seen anyone out, I should say, they're on their own at this point.
Outer bands of Hurricane Ike coming ashore, Category 2 storm, 110-mile-per-hour winds.
You can see one strong band now is starting to come through the Houston area with heavy showers. This is going to put some power outages in here from Liberty. You can see it moving right across the eastern part of the county to the downtown area. People want to know whether it's a hurricane or just a big storm. When's it going to get here? How bad is it going to be? And when is it going to leave? And that was what I was trying to focus on. We would start seeing the winds after midnight. They would be anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 miles per hour.
This is by far the worst we've been seeing, and I want to show you what I have in my hand here. This is a chunk of asphalt. We have just been seeing so much debris. It has been coming in the water here. It's been coming in the air. We've seen parts of the roof of the San Luis where there are about 800 people staying here. It's supposed to be one of the sturdiest, safest places to be on the island, and we have seen pieces of it being swept away in this wind. The wind is really slapping that rain at us, and we're seeing the water still pretty much going sideways here. I'm going to hold on here. It's a little safer for me, but you can see that water behind me just really moving sideways, and that is what we have seen pretty consistently throughout this storm.
This is the garage beneath the San Luis. Most of these are either emergency vehicles or vehicles for emergency workers who are staying here, and you can see they're socked in. And this is not unusual on Galveston Island right now. Most of the low-lying areas, many of the areas that are not particularly low-lying, are showing water damage or showing high water like this. About 8 o'clock tonight, the police stopped making calls. A little before that, firefighters stopped responding to calls. The mayor told us a little while ago that she did that. She put that order out because it had just gotten too dangerous.
This was a brick wall that came loose on this hotel. The wind just literally ripped it off, shattered it, scattered the bricks everywhere. We have seen debris become unhinged all over this city.
And you can see there's plenty of storm still, even though the eye wall, the very northern side of it, has now made a landfall.
We can feel the conditions getting worse as the second half of that eye is starting to push through.
I want to give you an idea of what it's like out here in Freeport. You know, the rain and the wind, it comes and it goes. I'd say right now it's about coming. You can see the rain, it's coming sideways. It's actually starting to hurt. And the palm trees, you can barely see there, but it's blowing it extremely bad now.
The water is into this house for sure. Beyond the corner there, the water goes back all the way to Swan Lagoon, which hooks up with Clear Lake. And again, this was part of the mandatory evacuation order, and it seems these homes already do have some water in them.
Well, we do know that there's a fire downtown at Brennan's restaurant with 2 injuries at least right now.
I guess the first thought when we arrived at Brennan's at the fire there was just the conditions. And 10 minutes into that fire, you're looking at swirling winds. I mean, these firefighters are on ladders, you know, high ladders, shooting water down. The water is swirling around.
We felt the gusts of winds right when they decided to suspend that operations on the radio there. So obviously the wind and the rain and everything coming with this storm, we just saw a power transformer go out. I don't know if you could hear that. When that big gust of wind went out, we saw green light over there. We've been seeing all night of these transformers going out. So as the storm comes in, this fire is still raging, guys. But as you can see, this driving rain and wind, the storm is here, and what a chore for these firefighters to have to battle this blaze with all this stuff coming through.
Battling fire is tough anyway, but when you have a hurricane coming in, 60 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour winds coming in as these folks are trying to fight the fire, it was amazing that these folks were having to fight this fire as the storm was coming in. The timing couldn't have been worse.
And then suddenly, we stopped asking ourselves, where's the storm? And started asking ourselves, when is this storm going to end? We had sustained winds of hurricane force all night long. Thousands of trees were knocked down. Power was knocked out almost immediately. Our central water plants lost their power. We had no running water. We were suddenly back to the days when we were on the frontier.
It was scary. It was frightening. The wind is howling like you've never heard before, and relentless. This went on and on and on and on and on. Trees are falling. Limbs are breaking. Wind and the rain is hitting the side of the house and the windows, and you're thinking, how bad is this going to get, and how long is it going to last? That's all anybody wanted to know. So I said, let's go on the air and ask people that are concerned to call us. We have a call from Santa Fe. Santa Fe, you're in Santa Fe. You're getting some heavy rain right now, I suspect.
Yeah, we're close to the dog track, and this wind is just not letting up. The rain is going sideways.
It's not going to either, unfortunately. Can you see us, or are you listening to us probably? Yeah, you said you were without power. As this thing moves along, unfortunately for you guys, you are not going to see any let up for probably 2 to 3 hours. Please tell me, how bad is it going to get? How long is it going to last? And that's what I wanted to tell people. True sense, not just a guess.
Actually, I am east of Conroe in Cut-and-Shoot-Grossville area.
Yep.
And I'd like to know, what are we to expect? I still have power, but it's flickering really bad, and
yeah.
winds and stuff, I don't know. I'm getting scared.
Well, don't be scared. We haven't had any tornadoes with this. We've had a lot of high winds, about 50, 60 miles per hour, and they howl and they make a lot of noise, and they're scary. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, because this whole eye continues to move a little to the northwest, right toward Cut-and-Shoot. They wanted to hear specifics. 2 more hours, 3 more hours, another hour. It's going to be stronger wind, lighter wind, heavier rain. I was trying to tell them as best as I could what they were up against. Well, I felt like we were doing our job. I mean, that's why I like doing it.
We've been notified by CenterPoint Energy that now 200,000 people are without power, right. And it had been, just 150,000
a short while ago.
So this is going to continue to happen.
I was working the night the storm was coming in. I was doing so many live reports that I did not have a sense of the big picture at all. I only knew what was right in front of me. So I was feeling anxious, my heart in my chest pounding a little bit, and I heard Bill and Dominique talking in my earpiece.
We are going to get through this. You can be assured of that. We've been through it before. We'll get through it again, and 24 hours from now, tomorrow, it'll be like a bad dream.
And I felt better, because I know Bill wouldn't say that if he didn't believe it to be true, and it's what I needed to hear right then, so it was good.
A hurricane is a very frightening thing, especially for our children and for people who've never been through a hurricane before. And I think it's important that people are reassured that we will face a tough time, that we did face a tough time, that we would get through it if we hung together, and we did get through it.
And we're hearing the wind howl outside, and we're hearing the rain pounding, and we're wondering what's happening to our building as we speak. The message is we're human. We feel the impact just like you do. But at the same time, we're all going to get through this thing all right. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when the winds are going at 110 miles per hour, we're all scared, but we have to have hope.
I'll tell you what, we are just getting hammered inside the Beltway with these very, very strong storms.
We were just west of 288 on Holcomb, and we decided to pull down here just a little bit and see how bad it was. It was 288 that we got stuck on, so this is Holcomb. And you can see the water pooling. We're not going through anything that we think is too high for our vehicle. Obviously, we don't want to get stuck again. But you can see just how much the water is pooling up here. And then across the roadway here, you can see just how heavy the rain is coming down.
The winds are picking up. We're being pelted. And along the way here to this, we could see some street signs that were just bent in half, almost as if they were a piece of cheese.
There's stuff that's flying through the sky, such as that big metal thing. That's why it's important for people to stay off the streets at this time. Let this storm pass through, this hurricane pass through the area.
As daylight reached the coast this morning, we began to get an initial view of what the damages were. and what the impact of the storm has had on the state of Texas, and I think it is clear that it was very significant.
We're on the Shepherd overpass right above I-10. If you're looking west, you've got the Durham overpass, and then the first exit past that's going to be T.C. Jester. After that's going to be Washington. Just kind of paint the picture for you. The 18-wheeler is getting through right now, and then the truck's going to follow. So they're trying to give it a go. It's probably not the smartest thing in the world to do. They have shut this down. They don't want anybody coming through. We've got a lot of people that have made their way outside of their houses just to check the mess out.
I've been out on the roads. There's too many people in their vehicles on the roads. If you're in a vehicle that can't stand high water, you don't need to be out. And I've seen people that are in high water vehicles stranded. We have no indication that the water supply is contaminated. However, the water pressure in the water system that is serving the city of Houston and many of the small cities in Houston is reaching low pressure levels because of a power outage.
Leslie Munoz made it off the island 32 hours after Hurricane Ike came ashore. She's crying because she says she didn't think she'd make it.
All we did was pray. We prayed and prayed, and we all prayed and prayed and prayed, and I think that's what helped us because everything around us was trash.
She rode out the storm in her third-floor apartment with 22 other people on Galveston's west side.
We were actually at 518 and I-45. They wouldn't let us in, but these people had managed to finally come out.
We all live at Island Bay Resort, and we don't have no house.
No roofs, there's nothing, there's no bottom, it flooded completely. There's boats in front of our houses and everything.
And it was sad. It was also frightening to think that there were other people still there and the conditions that they were describing.
Look down there for blocks and blocks inundated with water. As I understand it, that is Gulf water, that is seawater that has spilled and been pushed all the way down there.
Most people have no power in the city of Houston. The debris is widespread. Curfews are in effect for most communities, so if you're thinking of coming home, don't try it. And when you do come home, it's going to be a very different place.
Well, the first damage, of course, was trees and limbs and power poles everywhere. It was clear that the power was out because we got those reports from Centerpoint. So we were without power, limbs were everywhere. Downtown, we had windows out and glass on roads. There had been the fire at Brennan's that had pretty much destroyed that building. So in the Houston proper, it was clear that this had been a big windstorm for us, while it was a big water storm for Galveston and Bolivar.
Galveston's a stricken city today. It is a city without potable water, a city without electricity. You see the lines down. It is a city that has maybe as many as 20,000 people, residents, still remaining here, many of them in neighborhoods that look like this. You're talking about that tidal surge. Well, you don't have to go very far off the seawall to see where it went and where it is staying with us.
The amount of destruction along the seawall was just phenomenal. I don't think anyone foresaw that or expected that. There were piles of debris. It looked a lot like the old pictures you see of the 1900 Galveston hurricane, where everything's just been turned to splinters. But just about everything that was out in the water in front of the seawall was destroyed, and among those buildings, the Balinese room.
I also took down a beloved landmark here, the old Balinese ballroom. That's what's left of it. It was a nightclub, a gambling parlor, closed by the Texas Rangers in a famous raid back in the 1950s. Galveston, there was a lot of affection in Galveston for that old place, and now it's gone after withstanding all the hurricanes that have come before, Hurricane Carla and Hurricane Alicia.
The Balinese room is gone, and that was a historical landmark here, and it's just devastating to see it gone.
Everything that you are seeing here, all of these piles of debris, part of this is going to be the historic Balinese room, a Hooters restaurant, a souvenir shop. All of this was actually on the Gulf, on a pier, on pylons. It was swept off of the Gulf, across Seawall Boulevard. All of it has been destroyed.
We had 20,000 people or more on the island who rode it out, and once the weather cleared enough, they all came out to look at the damage. And you would see people come out on the seawall where we were and look at the pilings where the Balinese room had stood and just begin to weep. It was one of the landmarks down there, I think, that gave people a sense of security because it had survived so many storms. That was a big blow for a lot of folks.
It withstood Hurricane Carla, it withstood Hurricane Alicia, and the storm surge from Ike proved too much for the Balinese room.
And to see its utter destruction was a shock to Galvestonians and to all of us in Houston who have known that Balinese room for 30 years and more. I think Galvestonians felt violated when they saw that.
I've never seen structures that large literally lifted not only off the water but across Seawall Boulevard and then just scattered all down Seawall Boulevard. I mean, that was just a tremendous, tremendous force of nature.
It was shocking to see how much damage there actually was. It was so widespread. It was like every street in Galveston. Every building had experienced some damage. Flooding or debris was everywhere.
It's a recovery effort that will take weeks, Galveston trying to get back on its feet. 2,000 people living without the basics left the island on buses, many just happy to be alive.
We were at this evacuation center at Ball High School where a lot of people had survived the storm and then they were coming there because they realized they couldn't stay in Galveston with the aftermath as bad as it was. And we found this woman who had made it through the storm in her home, had lost much, but she was there with her most prized possession, which was her dog.
God, please. Please, God, please. Victoria Posas finally broke down when she thought her bloodhound might be too big to make the trip to San Antonio.
Name's Huckleberry. I've had him since he was 6 weeks old. And he's all I have. I don't have kids, I don't have an old man. It's my life.
It was incredible because we watched as 3 or 4 National Guardsmen came over and they actually found a special seat for this dog and lifted him up and put him inside with all the people, and you could see the hope return to her face.
You know, the first image I really have in my mind of Galveston is driving over the causeway and seeing these boats, and they were $1 million plus in worth, and you just see them, they're just lying there beside the freeway. It's not the yacht, but the force that it took to carry them and just simply plump them down.
For some, the devastation is too much. From the flattened homes to the beached boats, hope splintered. Just after noon, many evacuated residents got their wish to see for themselves.
The promise that I made to our citizens that I would make every effort to get them back to Galveston one way or another as soon as possible.
Let me show you, way out there, about 7 miles, is the USS Nassau. It left Norfolk, Virginia last Friday as that storm was headed our way, and it's made its way 2,000 miles to right there.
You could see the USS Nassau about 7 miles off the coast. And you're like, well, that's pretty impressive to see this ship off the coast. But then when you saw the smaller boats starting to bring in the supplies and the Marines, wow, and then they started to land on the beach. We don't see that in the United States. We've seen it in military documentaries, but you don't normally see that on the beaches of Galveston. And talking to some of the sailors and talking to the Marines, they don't do that very often in the United States either.
So we knew, we were all focused on Galveston. We had media crews there. We knew there were problems there, obviously. But the way it had gone in, we knew that Bolivar had been affected, but we didn't know how much. And Coast Guard went up to give us a look. And it was clear that there had been almost like a bomb gone off, which in terms of energy, that's exactly what had happened. So it was important for us to go and see for ourselves what had happened and look, really hover and focus in on some of these structures. And it was amazing. You can see this was a whole community and it's nothing but pilings. And there's one home straight ahead of us and that's there. But it's nothing. The foundation is ruined, so it might as well be gone because you can't, I don't think you can do much with that. Where did it all go? I have no clue. It's just out in the water somewhere in the bay, but that tells you how powerful this surge was because it didn't even leave behind any heavy appliances or any boats or jet skis or anything that you would think would be too heavy for to move, but it's gone. It's all gone. This is 124. It's the only way to get down Bolivar. You either come down I-10 and hit 124, or you take the Bolivar ferry from Galveston across to Bolivar. So this is the only way in and out. And this is obviously a connection point between the bay and the Gulf, and that's always most vulnerable. You're always going to have this kind of an issue. I didn't hear about this until we just found it. But you're seeing this tour as we see it. But that's obviously going to have to be rebuilt. It looks like part of the lane is left, but I don't think I would trust it to take my car over it. If this storm had hit farther to the south, if it had come into San Luis Pass like it was originally forecast as opposed to sort of right into the bay, then the west end would have been on this kind of surge side and would have had a lot more devastation in the west end. I'm seeing a roof down there right now. We're continuing right down Bolivar Peninsula, and a few cars buried up to their doors in sand. It's amazing to see pilings, just nothing there. And then right behind the nothing, there is a house. And it's like, how did that happen? How did one or four houses wash away and the houses behind it are still there? That's amazing. A lot of these houses have actually been turned, if you look at them, just turned on their pilings. This is the Bolivar Peninsula. It's sad. When I first saw it for the first time, I was just astounded. Where were the refrigerators? Where were the washers and the dryers and the heavy stuff? There was nothing there. It was all gone. Sofas, tables, beds, mattresses, cars buried. Where did it all go? Clearly it went into the water, but it amazes you when you think about how heavy some of these items are, not just the house itself, but everything in it is just gone, just disappeared. The only thing sticking up are the pilings.
We got into Bolivar the Thursday after the storm. We were escorted in by a game warden, and at that point residents weren't being allowed to return. As soon as you came on the island, it looked like a war zone. The area from Gilcrest all the way down to Crystal Beach, there was very little left standing. And as we drove that road, it was very difficult to get through because the surge tide had moved the dunes over the road, so you had to navigate that. And as we came into Crystal City, there was a house that had been picked up and moved onto the road. So we talked to a guy who was living in the rubble of what had been a store, a brick store, and who told us he had tried to ride the storm out there, but the surge tide, came in above his head.
We found Mike Clow raising his flags, just as he does every morning in Crystal Beach. He's a caretaker, but now there's not much to take care of.
This is what my kingdom was made of.
This is your place, right here?
Back there. See that bed laying there? Mm-hmm. This used to be a store. I used to have 3 rows of boat stalls.
Clow survived the storm, but just barely. He says when the store was swept away by a 6-foot surge tide, he was swept away too.
So that's the kind of storm this was on Bolivar Peninsula, and there wasn't anything around this store. There wasn't anything left.
As of now, the areas where likely house and structural flooding has occurred include obviously Lower Clear Creek, Lower Greens Bayou, Hunting Bayou, Halls Bayou, and Berry Bayou. Rainfall, you've all been watching, 5 to 7 inches of rainfall widespread across the county, up to 9 or 10 inches in isolated areas of the county.
You take a look at the vehicles behind me, all of those vehicles stacked up, and this is why. To the north, you can see that there is high water on 45 northbound. Those cars are going through, but obviously there are a few drivers who are concerned that they're going to get stalled out. See the frontage roads, there's more water there, obviously because of the elevation here on this particular part of town and the way this freeway and the frontage roads are built. Eventually, they hope that the water drains off. We had a period of very heavy and intense rain, and so this is a result, flooding on the freeway.
Another location that, of course, was synonymous with fun and good times and hanging out with family and friends, Kemah. We're going to look at some damage now. This is courtesy of Sky 2 over Kemah once the sun came up to really survey this area and take a look at what was left behind. There's a telling scene right there for you as you see "Welcome to Kemah" sign completely flooded, the boardwalk flooded. Lives really have changed forever. It will be a grand day when we can get Kemah up and running. We can get Seabrook up and running.
Wow, you know, this is like Houston's Disneyland that's underwater. It wasn't easy to see, and I thought, you know, I wanted to take my son there during the summer for the first time. Is it going to open? Will I be able to do that? And I think when we look at loss, it's not property that we're losing, it's experiences, it's feelings that these places create.
It was hard to get into Shore Acres in the beginning. It was totally blocked off by police. So that in and of itself told me it was going to be bad. So we get in there, and it was, the first thing I saw was a lot that was where a house used to be, totally flattened.
This was a 3,000 square foot brick home in Shore Acres before Hurricane Ike. Now you can see the same house is literally gone. And you want to build it again?
Oh yeah, we're gonna. It'll be a little higher next time. It'll be about 15 foot higher next time.
Shore Acres sits right along Galveston Bay. 1 out of 10 houses here is destroyed. The majority of the 650 homes took on water, many more than 4 feet, like this one that belongs to Catherine Coleman. She lives here with her 2 great-grandchildren and granddaughter. The entire contents of their home is now piled up in their front yard, thanks to volunteers from a local church. They're now waiting for an insurance adjuster. I can't imagine what it's like for you to walk amongst all of your things like this.
Yeah, I'm 86. Kind of a long time, but we've lived here for 30 years almost.
This is your life out here in the yard.
Yep. It's all gone.
The families that we talked to said that they had made it through Alicia just fine, made it through Rita just fine, didn't take in any water. And they were a little caught off guard by this one because I think they felt that that was a safety net history. But Ike proved that wrong.
I remember it was again Wednesday, and it was a man who had just gotten home, and we walked into his house and everything was scattered. He had like 6 feet of water in his house and things were just everywhere. And as we were walking through, he went, "Oh, you see all these pictures and everything?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "I have no idea who any of those people are." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he goes, "They're not my family and they're not my friend." They had floated in from somebody's house. He had an entire dining room set that didn't belong to him inside of his house. I mean, that was I was like, wow.
You know, it's not just the Houston area recovering from Ike tonight. The Beaumont-Winnie area was also hit hard by this hurricane.
Indeed, now some people are just trying to decide if their homes can be saved, while others lost a lot of what their livelihood was, their cattle.
Right. We drove through Winnie first, and we just tried to get as close as we could to the water. And we saw a guy who was going to check on his cattle, and we asked if we could go along. We went with him, and it was one of the hardest things, one of the toughest things I've ever experienced.
So, some of these cows were obviously swimming for it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Ramsey estimates thousands of cows in the area did not survive.
There's another one right there, one in the ditch, and then another one right there.
He lost at least 100.
There was a bull hung up in the fence. He choked to death.
Some of what we saw was just too heartbreaking to show.
There's 2 or 3 places down there had 400 or 500 head on there. They can't find none of them.
This is Highway 73, which goes from Winnie to Port Arthur. As you can see, it's closed for 22 miles. If you look down there, you can see flooding. We're told 2 200-foot barges washed up onto the road, as well as hundreds of dead cows. And it was hard to experience
knowing these animals had gone through so much, but also that this was the livelihood of the people up there, and they had lost so much. He said that he was one of the lucky ones. He said that there were others who had lost a lot more.
The Coast Guard had flown some of Bolivar, as we know, and no one had really shown us the West End. And there were these rumors going around that maybe it wasn't even there. And people were clamoring for information. So it had been 48 hours almost before anybody went up there. So finally, we were able to get permission to fly in over the West End. And so I wanted to go and show people, here's what it is. It's still there. Yeah, the West End is not gone. The West End is not gone. Bolivar is gone, but not the West End from what I'm seeing. Despite the surge, these houses, for the most part, are standing. You can see how all of these manufactured homes, there are a lot of manufactured homes here to the right that have really been pushed up against each other. There you go, right through there. So that this area of the West End hasn't done quite so well, not nearly as well. So now we're gonna go off to Jamaica Beach. So now we're coming up on Jamaica Beach. So as we look here, this is where we're gonna have to be concerned, because I think we might see a little more damage simply because these homes are older. Jamaica Beach has been one of the oldest communities down here on the island. And you can see as we go in here, we're gonna sort of tour around Jamaica Beach. We're seeing a lot of shingle damage. There's gonna be a lot of underneath damage here. And there's a lot of sand, obviously, on the roads because the surge would have come in this far. And as we look around, so far though, I expected to see a lot of homes where the roof was completely gone. I've got one right in front of me, right here in front of me. There is a house that is completely demolished, a number of them here, right on this street here. We can just hover and you can see some of these roofs completely gone. But I thought we would see a lot of homes where the roofs were just gone and we'd be looking at the furniture. And we're not seeing that as much as I thought we would, so that's good. And people thought, and I thought, that the West End might look a lot like Bolivar. And this shows you the difference between about 3 feet of storm surge, because Bolivar took about 3 feet more than the West End, and that's the difference. Not that the homes in Bolivar weren't built well, a lot of them weren't, but the surge makes all the difference. And because this storm came right into Galveston Bay, and the left side, the slightly weaker side of the storm, came into the West End, and the stronger side went into Bolivar. Bolivar took it on the chin, a lot more, obviously, as we know. Bolivar's pretty much decimated, and the West End is doing great from what I'm seeing. When I first went over the West End, I was first and foremost relieved that it seemed to be intact. So that at least was relieving. But then you get a little closer in and you see some houses aren't there and boat slips aren't there. You get some idea that some of the garages have been affected. The immediate beach homes have been affected, especially the foundations. But if nothing else, you're glad that there's still something there to start the rebuild with. It wasn't totally wiped out. Okay, after the first aerial tour, I started to get emails. Since people knew I was going to Galveston, people started saying, well, hey, do you have any idea about the Alyssa? What about the Grand Opera House? What about the Strand area? Do you have any clue what's going on? So I thought, well, let's take a camera and just do a driving tour. Okay, we're coming up on Fisherman's Wharf. I hear it's in really bad shape. We're gonna take a look inside. And behind it is the ship, the Alyssa. And people wanna know what's going on with the Alyssa, so we're gonna take a look at both of these right now. So follow me. Of course, they're saying the water came up 8 and 10 feet from this area. Of course, here we can get in, we can get a good idea of what's going on here. Wow. Of course, we're looking at, and this is the bar top here. There's stuff all over it. Okay, we're going up the steps of Fisherman's Wharf here. And this, as we look out, this is where the outdoor part of the restaurant was, with all of the tables and chairs, and people would sit out here and enjoy the fresh air and some seafood. And now we can really get a good shot of the Alyssa, which looks to be in very good shape. The sails, here's the Alyssa right here. The sails are tattered, obviously. The ship itself is very seaworthy. Okay, we're on the Strand here, and it's hard to see a lot of the damage inside because everybody boarded up. And we've been led to believe that 8 to 9 feet of water came into these buildings. Notice all the signs are gone right along this way. But here's one of the souvenir shops. And we can go in here and you'll see as we take the camera in, this is what the floodwater is going in and coming out, and just all that water has absolutely destroyed the inside. Are you one of the owners here?
Right
hey.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Hey,
Billingsley.
how are you?
I'm okay. How are you guys doing? We're just sort of giving people want a tour of the Strand and what's really going on down here.
Yeah.
I'm seeing about 9 feet of water.
This is about 9 foot of water. This is my best friend's place they've had for 16 years. Water line right there on the column there shows that it's at least 7 foot of water inside here.
Yep.
And besides that, people have broke in and vandalized the place.
I can't imagine.
Taking many things out of here.
Wow. So what did your friend think? I mean, what are you going to do next?
Well, he owns this place and he owns the Gracie's right here on the corner.
Yeah.
And both of the places are devastated. So a family of 15 years that made a living off the Strand are now done. So I don't know what they're going to do. We're trying to help them figure it out. So.
Hey man, good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you for covering what you have. I appreciate it.
This is the Grand Opera House that survived the 1900 storm. This is from 1894, and it survived and was brought back to life. It's just beautiful inside there, and I think we can see just what's going on. But you can see the facing helped tremendously. There's no damage on the outside of the Opera House. Watch this mud as you come across. And we can go over here and kind of look and see just how the lobby did. You go up some stairs to get into it, but I'm telling you, here's the high water mark here at the Grand Opera House. And I'm almost 6 feet, so this is almost a 6 foot water mark here. And I can look inside here. And the stairs, you know, the doors look pretty good. The stairs the carpet's there. Of course, they have mud all over them, so it's a muddy mess in there. And the downstairs is going to be a mess, but hopefully, you know, it came back once, guys. It can come back again. I was happy to be able to do it. I was happy that, you know, I've been going to Galveston for about 8 years. And I knew from being sort of an islander by choice, as they call it, what people wanted to know about. I knew that these particular places were popular and that everyone could identify with them. So I knew how people related emotionally to those places because it's where we all go. It's where we hang out. And they wanted to know what had happened to them. And so I had that sense of authenticity that I took with me because I wanted to know too. But it's still there, Alice.
Yeah, it's still there. Oh my God.
It was clear people wanted to know about their house. So my first thought was, well, let's go up in the helicopter and just very slowly look at all the houses. And then I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if while we were at Jamaica Beach, we could tell people from Jamaica Beach to call us and show them their house. And we thought about that and the logistics. So what we did was we told people we were going there, asked them to email us with their address, their name, and their phone number. And then when we got to those particular areas, we called people.
That's our house.
How's it looking to you?
Well, it's hanging in there. We lost, it looks like some of the top of the roof, but that's okay. The bottom didn't fare too well, but this house like I said, it survived Carla, it survived Allison, so wow, it got some damage on that side.
Well, it survived Ike too, though, didn't it?
It has now survived Ike. My husband just built that porch this summer, so.
Okay, do you feel a little better?
It looks pretty good.
Your roads over here, by the way, are in great shape, and all your power poles are in great shape too, so they should be able to get in here and get you guys going pretty soon.
Wow, that's awesome. What you're doing is so wonderful. Our neighbor, if you go down a little bit, 2 doors down, he's in Louisiana, and they have everything they own in their house. That's at the White House right there. They totally lost their garage. Wow.
Yeah, it's on the ground.
Wow.
But the house is still there.
How does the house look?
It looks good.
That's great. Right there. Oh, my God.
Well, you had some base damage, you know, to the front of it. But it's still there, Alice.
Yeah, it's still there. Oh, my God.
So it looks like we lost a pier holding up that corner of the deck. That's a bit concerning. This chimney has some siding off, but the windows are all covered with storm blinds, and the top windows hung in there good, so that's good news. The deck was old, so it makes sense that some of those deck boards broke.
Right. Okay, what do you see?
Well, I see it's on the ground. I guess my windows, part of my windows were knocked out. My deck is there. And I'd like to look on the other side, and I guess that would do it. That's what I wanted to be sure of.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bill.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think your house is salvageable.
No, I don't think so either.
Now let's zoom into that yellow house right there.
There it is.
Yep.
Ooh.
Tell me what you see, Matt.
The air conditioner's still there. That's surprising.
It is there.
Yeah, it looks like the base, if you can have the camera tilt down a little bit so we kind of see underneath it, because the upstairs looks okay.
I can see your air conditioner, and
Yeah.
you've lost a little siding. Your roof looks good.
Yeah.
How high were your pilings? How high were you above the sand?
It was about 9 feet above the sand.
It looks
Yeah,
like you
so
lost the stairs to your deck.
They were in the back, and now they're probably in the ship channel.
They're gone, yeah.
Yeah,
But the
but,
roof, the windows, you didn't board up?
Okay, no, we didn't board up, didn't have a chance to. So that's looking into the living room.
Yeah, you've
I
lost
think
some
the
wall
TV's
on
still
that
on
side.
there.
What about your friends and your neighbors on either side of you, Matt? I know they want to know about their houses too. What would you tell them from what you're seeing? We'll pull out a little bit here.
If you can pull back just a little bit, it's a little further east where we just passed. Okay, my next door neighbor there, their deck is collapsed, or that may actually be part of another house in front of them. The big concern there is going to be whether or not they can put that road back in. There's a collapsed house.
Hey, Matt, thanks for everything. I appreciate it.
Frank, thank you and everyone there at Channel 2. We really appreciate it, and this is our first look at it. I can't say how much this means to us.
Hey, Matt, that's what we're here for, and good luck. Our hearts and our spirits are with you. And there were sighs of relief. There was pain of discovery. But at the end of the day, it's better to know the devil and know what you're up against. Just of not knowing is so difficult. And no one could go back there except us. So it was our duty to say, here's your house, here's what it looks like. Here's what you're going to be coming home to. So that's why we did it. I was happy to be an instrument to help people emotionally get over the stress.
It was so raw, that experience, and in a way you're sitting there and you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, what are they going to find? Is the house going to be intact? You're rooting for the homeowner. You're hoping that they find a solid structure, and then you just cringe when you see what they're seeing and the fact that their home no longer existed. To me, that the impact of that was so great. That's what television is all about.
Not knowing is always one of the scariest things. Not knowing what has happened is always discomforting. You want to know what's happened to my home. When Frank got in Sky 2 and flew over those homes and showed people, resident by resident, live on the air as they talked to him on the telephone up in the helicopter, there's my home, please pan in on the back of it. I want to see the other side of it. And Frank was able to maneuver Sky 2 around and show them exactly what happened. It gave them finally a sense of closure. This is what's happened. Now I can live with it. Now I can go on about my life.
So we went up in the helicopter on Monday to show people what had happened from the air. On Tuesday, we went around the Strand area and downtown and some neighborhoods in Galveston to show people what had happened. Then we went back up in the helicopter to try to show people on the West End their homes from the air. It was clear there was a damage on the ground. So we needed to get back on the ground on Thursday, and that's what we did. We're going toward the Bayside on 8 Mile Road. We're here in Spanish Grant. Homeowner here in Spanish Grant, what are you finding?
The bottom is pretty much a total loss. We brought in tools to start cutting the sheetrock out because the mold is going to continue going up. That's what we fear, and then now they're telling me I'm not covered by mold either. So I'm basically screwed. I have a no win-win situation here. The city won't let me in. I mean, what do you do? And then my insurances, all of our insurances are telling us that they're going to cover nothing.
Sorry. Just tell me your story.
I
Actually, it wasn't near as bad as we figured. I mean, I was expecting to come back and have half of all this stuff gone. We only had about 4.5, 5 feet of water in the bottom half, which we're tearing the sheetrock out just to keep the mold down. Oh. We're just tearing out right now, but you can see how it's wet. That's damp. It's just pulled right off.
Wow. In Jamaica Beach, generally the top floor did okay, the first floor, but the ground floors got blown out because we had a surge from the Gulf and another surge from the Bay. But also on Kingston Way and here on Marina, a tornado touched down. You can see the houses on Kingston were in bad shape, and this one here on Marina, well, you see what I see there. And then next door, this house completely taken out here by that tornado, just left the pilings. But generally, Jamaica Beach did okay. It did all right. The farther west we go, the better they did. This house over here next to the yellow one took a pretty hard beating. The bottom floor side was ripped off, a lot of shingle damage. Inside with the rainwater, that's going to be a molded mess, as we can imagine. You can see the road is just hammered. I mean, the waves came crashing in. Wow. You can see that house that's right there beachfront is just, it's lost 6 or 7 feet of its foundation. It's just literally on its pilings. The foundation is gone. The road to it is gone. I was optimistic for most people on the West End. A lot of people had been hit either by tornado in Jamaica Beach or the sand erosion, the beach erosion right there at the front end. There was obviously some dock damage, and I knew the power was going to be a long time before it came back. But by and large, the West End is still there. It can be cleaned up, it can come back. I wanted to be back when residents came back to get an idea of what they were facing. I wanted to see if we had done a good job of telling them what to expect. And I think we did. And I wanted to just see the human side of what they were up against. I mean, I knew what they were facing. But it's one thing to go by a house and see a lot of mud and trees down. It's another when people are there cleaning it up. I wanted to know really what they thought about it, how they felt about it, and what their spirits were. Most of them were optimistic, but it's a tough road to hoe. And as we go by, you can just see pile after pile after pile of debris. Whose house?
My house.
Better or worse?
We had a foot of water, and we're doing okay because we stayed, so we started in it right away after the storm. A lot of the furniture we got to throw out, but we just haven't had the time to get it out, and it's been drying out in the house, so we've been sitting on it for right now. We'd rather sit on the wet furniture than to sit on the concrete, so.
Bless your heart. Here on Lake Madeline, the water came up 1 to 4 feet into almost every home right here. And the piles of debris are just one after another, people's entire lives. And then we came across this, a huge fire that broke out right here on the lake. 3 huge, beautiful homes right here on the lake. And apparently a transformer caught fire and the wind blew the fire into the home, then one home caught another home, and another home caught another home, and all 3 right here on Lake Madeline burned to the ground. Well, you have a nice group of people helping out here.
These are angels. These are my co-workers.
And they all came down to help you?
You betcha.
That's your whole house, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Where you want to talk?
But I'm still here, and my family's still here. My grandparents on both sides of the family were survivors of the 1900 storm. If they can do it, so can I.
I love your spirit.
Thank you.
Hi, girls. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Well, tell me, how are you? What's been going on?
We're alive. We're alive. That's all that matters.
True?
Yeah.
How many feet of water?
We figured there's at least 12 because it's still dripping through the ceiling, so the carpet upstairs is still wet.
Yeah.
So it's dripping down on our heads.
There was enough to go over our ceiling and cave in the roof.
Wow.
All the insulation, all the ceiling, everything's gone.
Bless your heart. Tell me about your world.
It's not real good right now. I've lived here, I guess, 25 years. It's a family home. And my daughter's papers from when she was little bitty are soaking wet. All my furniture, I've got mold. It didn't quite make it up to the plugs, which is good. But I've got I only took about 8 inches of water, but it climbed. Then it got all the furniture.
Everything I own I can put on 24 hangers, and I'm okay with that. You know, it's okay.
The people of Galveston have always been resilient. I mean, you look at the 1900 storm, they raised the island and built a seawall, said we're not going anywhere. By and large, that is still the spirit.
Most of that power grid went out in the fourth largest city in the country.
Power equals progress. No power equals no progress. Without the power, nothing's working. It's hard to clean up, and it's hard to get the city moving again.
For those of us who live in climes where hurricanes take their toll, the loss of electric power is always the most discomforting factor. You know, to see people cope with the true dark of night, the loss of running water, food spoilage, and overheated homes is heartrending.
It's interesting how we all depend on power and how much calm and peace lights and air conditioning bring to our lives, and that when we don't have them, doing anything becomes problematic. How are you going to eat? How are you going to store your food, your ice, all of these conveniences, and it's so unfortunate that many were without for as long as they were.
What do we want? Power! When do we want it? Now!
It didn't matter what kind of plans were on paper. There was no way to plan for what happened to this city. I just think it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime storms, and we all were just stuck in the dark together. We go up into this neighborhood because it was listed on a piece of paper as having 100% still out. More than a week and a half after the storm, 100% still out. Nobody had been restored there. So we went up to that neighborhood because it seemed to be this sort of lost neighborhood, this forgotten neighborhood. And we get up there, and that's exactly what we found.
This tiny generator is keeping Avery Washington's barbershop in business near Reed and Scott. A fan is cooling the chair for his customers, but he says this machine's about to give out right along with his patients.
When you're talking about Centerpoint, Reliant Energy or whatever, you're seeing those trucks like yourself. Only time I seen them if they was up on the corner sleeping in the trucks. They got other folks down here working while they sleeping in the trucks. Now that's the honest opinion. I'm telling you what I see.
And then this woman just comes up to the camera, and her frustration just explodes out there in front of me.
Turn my lights on, please. Help us.
You can just see it and feel it, that she's going through it. Not the fact that she's without power after the storm, but that there's absolutely no progress, and she can't understand why. And thousands of neighborhoods in Houston were going through the same sort of thing.
This one woman, for me, epitomized what so many people were going through.
If you guys can help us now. We need it now. Not the 6th, not the day. We need it now. We need it now. We need help bad now.
I think it spoke volumes to the frustration and the misery that a lot of people were feeling.
94-year-old Frank Schupak enjoys sitting on his front porch, but today it's out of necessity.
Frank Schupak was the most touching story, and I don't even think it wasn't just us who helped him. His neighbors called us. His neighbors called and said, you know, there's this 94-year-old man who lives on our street. Everybody else has power. We got power like 4 days after the storm, and he still doesn't have it.
He's the only one on his entire street without power.
I don't know what to think no more.
He doesn't know because Centerpoint told him these wires and this meter knocked loose from his home by a tree are his problem.
You know that wire that runs from here, there they cut it and put it out of the way, still hanging on a tree. And I said, you're going to put my lights on? He said, we don't do that.
Centerpoint told Schupak to call an electrician, and we confirmed damage to the power cables or wires attached to your home must be repaired at your cost. Schupak was quoted $1,800. But when we called John Moore Services, recommended by the Houston Better Business Bureau.
Hi Frank, how you doing? Pretty good.
An electrician got to work on Schupak's home in minutes, and there's, well, more.
Don't worry, John Moore Services is going to take care of all the expense on this one for you, okay? Okay.
And so we stayed with him from probably like 10:30 in the morning until 7 at night, until his power was turned back on. They got the meter box put back up and then flipped the switch and his lights came on.
There you go!
Oh yeah, boy, that's good.
You've got power.
They finally got his lights back on. And that was a Friday night, the full 7 days after the storm.
I find it absolutely amazing that that storm could do that kind of damage to our power system. I think it's a wake-up call for people in the power industry. I think it's a wake-up call for us to know that we have to be prepared. Because of all the emails and phone calls that we were seeing as journalists, we had to get answers to questions.
The 500,000 customers who are still without power, which of course is more than 500,000 people, they want to know, when are we going to get our power back on? What's the holdup now?
Hurricane Ike created devastation, especially with regards to trees in our service territory. Everyone wants all of the electric service restored right now. So we've got to put all of our resources on that. It's been called a natural disaster. Right. It's an emergency. We're building the electric system to get everyone back in power so we can get back to our normal lives.
It's our job to ask those questions, and sometimes tough questions. There were some answers that we got as journalists that just didn't make sense. They didn't make sense to us, and they certainly didn't make sense to the customers. And ultimately, it's not about CenterPoint answering our questions, it's about CenterPoint explaining it to their customers.
We had talked to one of the, really what at one point was millions of people that didn't have power, and this neighborhood, obviously the people were at wit's end. They'd had enough of it. We spotted a CenterPoint lineman at the end of the block, and he's like, "You want to get the power on in this neighborhood? I mean, do you really want to get the power back on here?" And I'm like, "Of course." And then he's like, grab that, follow me, we're going to do it right now.
This thing, right? I won't pretend to tell you what Bedell was doing up there, because even after he explained it, I didn't get it. But his instructions were clear and concise. Hook it on there?
Yeah, there's a black hook.
Yeah.
You put it inside that other hook.
Less than 30 minutes after he started, Bedell had gotten the job done. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There's no way, if you're a reporter or anyone else, and somebody says they need help, you know, if you do these things, we can fix this problem. You're not going to sit idly by when you've seen so many people going through so much stuff. You're going to help.
A hero's welcome, and even a hug from the man who now has a whole new outlook on life.
Thank you for Channel 2, and thank you for the guy who fixed the electric.
We need food. We need food, and we need food now.
Whenever people are standing in line in America for food, it seems just so odd, you know, for the richest country in the whole world, ever.
People standing in line for water and ice, to see that and to know that this community had been hit that hard, that was pretty shocking. You know, you having covered this so many times before, but to see a city this size have that many people impacted by a storm, that was pretty shocking to me.
Well, this point of distribution, or POD, is at Powell Gymnasium at Red Bluff and East Southmore. And take a look at the folks lined up around the block. Now, we told you earlier that they weren't going to distribute ice and water and MREs to people who were walking up, to pedestrians, but they quickly changed their mind on that when they found out how many people either didn't have vehicles or didn't have gas. Now, walk with me here and you can see just how far this line stretches, and this is just the line of pedestrians. Now, we can tell you that this pod has been open since 4 p.m. yesterday. It stayed open the entire night, and they have just received 5 trucks of ice, water, and MREs. We were trying to find out if this is one of the busiest PODs, and I'll let you swing around in front of me to see all of these people. We're going to walk right up to where they're actually getting the food so you can see how long of a wait, and see people walking who have no vehicles or no gas, and they have to carry 10 pounds of ice or water back to their apartments. To be quite honest, they're just very thankful that they can do that. What we have found some of these people is that they might have a car going through the line while a spouse waits in this line to see who can get first, because this has been a very long wait for a lot of people.
The food stamp line really hit me hard to see just how many families were out there needing of help to get food for their families.
The line stretched for almost 3 blocks as people seeking a lifeline waited to apply for emergency food stamps and credits for the Lone Star card. Many, just like Dolores Torres, a mother of 6, just needed a one-time boost to get back on track and restock their pantries after Hurricane Ike.
It's just to refill my refrigerator. That's all I need. I don't need any extra.
That's all you need to get back on track, and after that, you think you might have it.
That's right.
We were able to put Dolores in contact with a local 2 viewer who delivered food right on the spot. That's because it wasn't clear if she would qualify for the aid, after dozens of people like Jodine Gauthier were turned away because of income requirements.
Great for people who maybe are not working, but it's really sad for those who are and who struggle and fight every day, and this is the outcome that you're not qualified. You could have walked through the line and said that.
Got these people standing out here, and half of them is coming out here with not anything. We've been out here all night and we're not getting anything.
For many of the stories of disappointment, there are stories like Ruby Moore's. She received money that should last her 2 months. Well, how's it going to help you?
They gave us for 2 months, and it'll help get the food back we had to throw out because when the lights went off, you know, the food ruined. So it'll get back our food.
To see all those kids standing there in line with their parents really hit me, because just hearing from the people, knowing that they had gotten up to be in line there by like 3 a.m. and with their kids in tow, and I just can't help but as a parent think about the kids and think about how when they think of Hurricane Ike, they'll have those memories of standing right by their parents' side, trying to get food stamps, trying to get food.
We're at the HEB at Westheimer and Kirkwood, and you're looking at live pictures right now, the line to get inside to buy some stuff. We've been out here about a little over an hour right now, and the line has been steady and growing since we got here. The good news is it's open, and they're getting some snacks and foods and stuff like that, but they do have a long list of stuff they're out of or running out of.
It's at the gas stations. You know, a lot of us after the storm, we had to cover the part of the story that happened at the gas stations. You couldn't get gas. You'd have to wait for hours.
It is yet another Ike headache. Long lines at the pumps burning precious drops creeping forward in hopes of getting more. And through it all, Eugene Alford is cool as a cucumber.
Man, it's all good.
It is?
Yes, it is.
It's been a long day, huh?
A long day, but you know it's worth it. Just one of those things we all have to go through.
The problem is with the sun fading fast, so were the hopes for those at the end of the long line. And at 8:22, Derek Thomas was the last man pumping.
Yes, I got the last pump.
You feel lucky or what?
Yeah, I feel lucky because I definitely needed it.
There was a woman not far from the medical center here in Houston who had waited 4 hours. She was on E. She was with her young daughter. And they had just run out of gas. I mean, she missed it literally by maybe a couple of cars.
And then I come around here, now they out. That's not right. That is not right. I can't believe this. It is not right. I bought a generator, can't even get gas for it.
It was beyond her comprehension that she had to go through all that just for trying to do the simplest tasks.
Elizabeth Scarborough showed us a family of 15, including a 6-month-old on oxygen. They were living in tents in their front yard.
This house in Kemah was a victim of Ike. The family that lives inside is rising above.
We have power now. Our problem was mold, snakes, and we had rats.
Yes, snakes in the walls.
They were about this big, and we got 10 so far.
A family of 15 lives here, or did, until floodwaters came through.
When he started pulling down ceiling, we noticed a lot of the mold already in the ceiling.
Now the entire family is living outside in tents.
Jacob, come here. It can be very complicated. You're okay.
Melissa Beach and her husband had 4 kids of their own. They adopted 9.
And when we were able to adopt, we would adopt any child that was basically able to come through and be adopted.
5 of them have special needs, like 6-month-old Mercy, who's on oxygen. Melissa's husband is a center point lineman and has been working extra long hours, but somehow they're making do.
Right here we have the beds and the cots.
We do camp a lot, so the only hard one is Mercy on her oxygen and stuff.
But this family was incredible. They were not complaining. They were not upset. They were getting through this one day at a time together. And that was really incredible for me to see. What I realized is there were so many other families out there too, like the Beach family.
You know, saw a lot of terrible stuff, I think, after the storm. And the thing that really touched me the most was in Baytown. And it was a couple who had a son in Iraq. This is a guy who, you know, 24 hours earlier was in Iraq, you know, dealing with that out there, and he gets a message essentially from his parents that, you know, our house has been wrecked by Ike. So he tries to figure out the quickest way he knows how to get back home.
From the curb, it looks like a yard sale, but it isn't. For more than a week, the Ellises have been sleeping, eating, living in their front yard.
This is our living room, dining room, and bedroom, I suppose you might say.
Ike's storm surge filled this house with 4 feet of water. Mold and looters are now trying to devour what's left.
It's tough to see that all their personal belongings out in the weather and people trying to possibly loot their personal belongings if they're not around to watch them.
The Ellises are essentially prisoners here, forced to wait for an insurance adjuster who could come by any minute, but hasn't.
They're getting eat up by mosquitoes and eating MREs and things of that nature.
Eric Ellis knows a thing or two about MREs. He's serving in Iraq and came home yesterday on 2 weeks hardship leave.
We're proud that we have kids that care about their mom and dad.
The truth is, Eric can't fix this, but at least he's home, because war is tough enough, he says, without having to worry about your folks.
It actually looks like some of the places that I've seen in Iraq, and that's not at all what I expected to see when I came home.
He said, he couldn't believe it. His parents are on the front lawn, all of his belongings are in the front lawn, and he's like, I'm here to help them, but I don't even know where to start at this point.
Any disaster can bring out the worst in people, but it can also bring out the best. This hurricane brought out the very best in Houston and Houstonians. We saw our civic leaders pull together and respond to the needs of people. We saw people respond to the needs of one another.
I think Houstonians as a whole responded very well. I'm not surprised at all by the way Houstonians responded in terms of helping people, in terms of getting through this crisis. I'm not surprised at all. We've seen it over and over again. Many people have been through storms, and those who haven't, did some of the things they need to do in terms of getting prepared.
Every time I've covered a natural disaster, there's always people willing to help. But I was really stunned at how instant the help was. I interviewed this one gentleman who was wearing the only thing he had left. It was a blue pullover, black jeans, tennis shoes, and a ball cap, and that was the only thing he had left in the world because the water had taken everything. I do this interview with him, and literally less than 5 minutes later, there was a woman in Houston who sent him $1,000 cash. I think it just shows that the type of community we live in. We live in a great community. People who are willing to hand over $1,000 in cash, no questions asked, to a person they've only seen on TV saying they need help is pretty amazing.
After the storm, I think what impressed me the most was just the sheer generosity of Houstonians, just grassroots effort of who we are as a community, helping one another no matter what. People didn't have electricity, they didn't have things going on, but yet they got out there, stood in the heat, and helped people get their ice, food, and water. It was amazing.
What we're doing is you're calling us and giving us information, and we're passing that along.
I thought the neighbor-to-neighbor program that we had was terrific.
This is actually our call center. You know by now that we are the neighbor to neighbor. KPRC Local 2 is really connecting families. We're connecting neighbors who are giving us an indication of the type of resources that are in their community. Sugarland, Fort Bend, the Whole Foods is open. They have ice. Highway 6 at 59. And the Sears, that's Highway 6 in Dulles, has chainsaws and generators.
That neighbor to neighbor hotline that we set up, I thought was incredible. And it wasn't just literally your neighbor, your neighborhood, who lives next door, but from 100 miles away, helping out someone who you would consider your neighbor at that point.
I am so glad we did neighbor to neighbor. I will never forget those stories.
Yellow Cab is just one of the companies in Houston that have been helping out special needs families. This is a family here in Southwest Houston. They're deaf and they have diabetes, but Yellow Cab really came to their needs, delivering lots of water, supplies, fresh fruit, all the things that they need to at least get through the next few days. This Yellow Cab Hummer arrived at Local 2 ready to deliver several cases of water, fresh fruit, and other supplies to a Southwest Houston family in need.
We have water in the bed of the Hummer, and then we also have granola bars and fresh fruit
Thanks to our Neighbor to Neighbor program, a family with 4 deaf adults was connected to another family willing to give.
When I found out that it was a deaf family calling, I had the realization because it was their interpreter on the phone. You could hear the panic and the desperation in the interpreter's voice, of the interpreter saying, you know, they're diabetic, they don't have transportation, and they're running really low on food, and this is getting really serious. So when I knew that this deaf family was so desperate, I personally went, that's it, we need to do something. I mean, I couldn't let that call go. So I looked over literally to the lunch that was catered to the Neighbor to Neighbor call center volunteers, and I said, they can have my sandwich. And then everybody else sort of looked over and said, well, yeah, they can have mine too. And from there, we put a care package together.
You know, like I said, we appreciate everything everybody's doing, you know, so hopefully we can help someone else too if we get the chance and opportunity. She said, thank you for bringing the food and the water and the help.
It was extremely heartwarming to know that we directly made a difference. I don't think I'll ever forget that phone call and that interpreter's voice. And, you know, I'm hoping that they will never forget us either.
In wake of everything that went on, all the devastation around us, people still pulled together and said, what do you need? How can I help? Where do people need food? Where do people need water? Even though they may have lost things, even though their homes may have been crushed, everyone was saying, are you okay? Is your family okay? And that was a beautiful thing to see, just to see how resilient the human spirit is.
We're coming to you from the Carlisle Place Apartments located on West Belford, just off West Belford in the Fondren area. And this is buzzing with activity. Let me tell you what's been going on in the last hour or so. City Councilman Peter Brown got wind of some major needs with some elderly folks here at the Carlisle Place Apartments. So what he did was he contacted the Yellow Cab Company, loaded up many cabs, we're going to talk to them in just a second, with ice, with MREs, with bottled water, and send it on the way here to the Carlisle Place Apartments.
I think Houston's a city that is not selfish. I mean, when times get tough, people, you know, step out of their comfort zone, so to speak, and want to help. I mean, you see it in all kinds of areas. There's many great cities that do that. Houston stands out. I mean, you see it time after time after time, the willingness to you know, take a step forward and give a little bit of extra.
Despite all the turmoil we went through, all the scary stuff, all the bad stuff, when the dust settled and the wind calmed down, everyone looked around and tried to find one another.
I learned how people can come together and help each other out. I was all over. I was in San Jacinto County, I was in Conroe, I was in Huntsville, I was in Galveston, I was in Bayou Vista, and everywhere you went, people were like, well, there was someone who was more unlucky than I was. People were fighting no power, people were fighting trees on their houses, people were fighting, they were having to rebuild their entire house, but yet they always were thinking about the people who were worse off than they were, and I think that was an amazing testament all over the area.
Still to this day, I think I'm just really touched by how much people helped each other. Before and after the storm. That's what I will always remember most is, you know, sure, people complained, people were upset, people were afraid, but I was just touched by how much people just reached out to help each other. I think it says that, you know, we're just very strong, we're resilient, that despite it all, that we care about each other, we care about our neighbors, our family and friends, and that somehow we know that we're going to be able to pull together and it's going to be okay.
There were people, especially in neighborhoods, who never knew each other. And suddenly they were, for the first time, having to know each other. I think that speaks volumes that at least we came together, and from now as we go forward, we'll remember what it's all about, that we are a community, we are a city, we are a group of people trying to get through life as best we can, and helping each other is so vitally important. Sometimes it takes a hurricane to make you realize that. But now that we do, I think we're going to be a stronger city for it.
It looked like hundreds of little block parties, watching people set out tables, bring their barbecues around, and all these families gathering around because they're all in it together. And just watching the expressions on their faces, they were all giving each other comfort.
When you see people saying, I've got electricity, hand me that electric cord and I'll plug it in and we'll just run it across the street so that you'll have electricity on my bill, I don't know how you could ask for a finer community.
Houston is one of the most amazing places
you've ever been. And it's not necessarily the city, it's the people who make the city. That how everybody rallies, and not just neighbor helping neighbor and coworker helping coworker. I mean, that is amazing to me, that it seems that the people who have the most feel that they have a duty, not necessarily a duty, but an obligation to give back to the people who need it the most, and they are more than happy to do it.
The most touching thing I witnessed was at the Kroger store on the seawall when it reopened, and people were going in buying, you know, the important things, the batteries, the toilet paper, the water.
How you doing, partner?
You don't appreciate it until it's gone. The Kroger on the seawall is back. The welcome included free ribs.
Fully cooked, ready to go. All they got to do is eat it. I got 2 more in my hand.
One of the employees of the Kroger went up and she got flowers, and she started giving it to different ladies. And she gave it to this one lady, and it just touched her. I mean, you could see the tears in her eyes. You could see the tears in everybody's eyes.
Because they're so pretty, they make everything ugly outside look nice. And they're alive. And they're alive.
Yeah.
That made my day. That made my whole disaster zone look happy.
It brightened up her world, and it really did kind of brighten up the world around us. And so I think that gave a lot of people a little bit of hope, because it was a pretty object in the middle of all of this ugliness.
I just love that sometimes in the worst situations it brings out the best in people. And especially I was really proud Houston, Southeast Texas, just really good people that live here, and I think it's not that way everywhere in the country.
I think Houstonians responded to this very much the way that Houstonians respond to almost every crisis. We help each other out, we check on our neighbors, we find energy that we didn't have before, and we make it happen. It's a unique quality of Houston, it's a unique quality of Texas.
The city has an amazing spirit. You know, Houstonians have huge hearts, and we've seen it before in other disasters, and we saw that, you know, time and time again after Ike.
I'm just so proud of our city. I'm so proud this community really came together to help one another. Even though they experienced loss and hurt and suffering, they still managed to reach out and help one another during these times.
An experience like this teaches us that we have much more in common than whatever might set us apart. A natural disaster affects us all in the same ways. We see that caring for others and sharing what we have makes us whole again. Now, this hurricane took away many things, but it did not remove our sense of security. It restored it.
I hope that the whole question about taking storms seriously has now been alleviated. I know that as weathermen, we go out and we say, well, this looks like it's coming our way, and then it doesn't, and people say that we're crazy and don't know what we're talking about. But when they do come our way, I hope people respect that now and understand why we are always saying, be prepared, be prepared, be prepared. We do it so that people won't be caught off guard. We're on the Gulf Coast of Mexico, and when they come our way, they are devastating. And not to be prepared for that is just senseless. So I hope that argument's been put to rest.
I think that we will not take things for granted like we had before, and I think that we're going to prepare a lot more so for what the future might hold. Maybe it's a year from now, maybe it's another 25 years, but the fact of the matter is we need to make plans and preparations with events like this in mind.
Ike was the killer of apathy. I think that many people, that's going to now set the standard. That's going to be the one thing they remember as they get their families ready for this, is it could be another Ike. I think this will totally wipe out the baseline for what we all consider storms in the future.
This was only like 8 hours after the storm. It wasn't like it was 3 days later. People were already in need of all this stuff. They were already in need of food, and the HEB didn't have a lot of it. But the scene outside was huge lines, and I think it just showed that, one, folks don't prepare as much as they should, but two, people want to get back to normal so quick, and I think this storm, if not anything else, showed us that you got to prepare for these hurricanes because they're real, and the situation after the storm is real.
As cliche as it sounds, you can never be too prepared. That means having food, water, evacuating when you're supposed to. I mean, Mother Nature really doesn't care how bad it gets for you, so you're the only one who can make your storm experience easier to handle. And if you're not prepared, you can expect the worst.
Ike was a wake-up call for many of us about being prepared, about listening to the warnings and getting out. I don't think that many people really got the idea that they may be without power for a couple of weeks. And so going forward, people are going to really pay closer attention to how they prepare and how they plan, how they're going to deal with the storm.
I think a lot of people learned a lot of different lessons from Ike, and I think the number one thing that we learned is you've got to be prepared. I think the people of Galveston took it seriously. I don't think they realized how serious the storm was going to get, and I think that's true on Bolivar as well. A lot of people thought their houses would remain standing, and now they're going back to nothing.
I really learned that the category of a storm doesn't matter. I know that a lot of people out in the community were thinking, you know, it's a Category 2. I've written out a Category 2 before, no big deal. And I think it was not until the storm actually blew through that people realized, wow, you know, you can't just think about the size of the storm or the category, because that doesn't say at all, it doesn't tell the whole story.
I think we need to come up with a new way to categorize hurricanes. They've already done it with tornadoes. They used to have the F scale. Now it's the EF scale, the Enhanced Fujita scale. I think we need to come up with a hurricane hazard index that really takes into effect the area where a storm is heading. It takes into effect the storm itself, because every storm is different. And this storm was a Category 2, but it had a Category 4 storm surge. It hit an area that hadn't been hit for 25 years, so that automatically would have put the number up higher.
I think if nothing else, what this screams loud and clear is when they say evacuate, evacuate. A lot of people didn't leave the island and lived there then for the next few weeks in the worst conditions imaginable. No water, no sewer, and no electricity. This ought to begin a long public discussion about building codes along the Gulf Coast, about whether we need to reinforce those codes, that is, to up them, to require that buildings that close to the coast be built a little stronger.
Hurricane Ike, Hurricane Alicia, Hurricane Carla showed us that we live in an area where we're going to see more hurricanes. This will happen again. The sense of hope that I got from Hurricane Ike is that I know when it happens again, we're going to pull together in the same way. We're going to get through it together again, because we did this time, and we will again.
Well, you know, I've been through a lot of storms personally and professionally, and I've realized that you just can't think of everything. There were people who triple-tied their boats to make sure their boats were safe, but then they lose the whole dock and the boats on the side of the highway. You build your house high and strong, make sure it's safe from the water, and it catches on fire and burns to the ground. But you can't think of everything. So as we go through it, I think we have to look forward and outthink Mother Nature. We have to build smarter. We have to try to evaluate every possible scenario so that we can outthink the worst storms. Because we won't beat Mother Nature. We won't beat her. We can outthink her, hopefully, but we won't beat her.